Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of this new podcast called Conversations with the Geriatric Gymnast. And today I am talking with my friend and coach, Mike Morenberg. I've known Mike for many moons. We met back at Joe's gym, which is where I started training, and many of my older geriatric gymnast people started training. And Mike was there. I know he knew Joe for a very long time. And back then, when I was starting out, Mike would kind of appear and he'd, coach us every once in a while. He'd kind of sub in for, whoever was coaching at the time. And I think the one thing that I was always amazed by and still am to this day was
Can't imagine where this is going.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Was his jumping power. Like, he seems to be able to jump on like trampoline and vault surfaces with so little effort. But like when he launches himself, it's like he could fly. He could like literally launch himself into the stratosphere. And every time we see it, we're like, how does he do that? How does he go that high? And it looks like he's doing no work at all. It's like we're earthbound and he's from some alien race who can like actually like reach the stars. It's quite amazing. So Mike now leads the Tuesday night class, and Tammy and I go there as often as we possibly can over at Flippers. And we get a lot of great coaching tips, not just for like gymnastics, but also for coaching. And for me, that's really valuable because, in the grand scheme of things, I'm a relatively new coach and I'm still, reticent about spotting people. And, I'm learning a lot about that as I go. And Mike is kind of a veteran for many years. So his perspective is really valuable to me, both in his understanding of gymnastics, understanding of what the body can and can't do, understanding of what the older body can do. I don't want to say can't do because I don't like saying can't when it comes to us. So I wanted to sit and talk with him. I had an extended conversation with Tammy, and maybe at some point we'll get like the three of us on one of these Zooms and we'll see how that all works. But for now, let's start with you talking about like your history in gymnastics. Like, when did you start? You got older. Why did you continue? Did you take any breaks? Like that kind of thing.
So I think there's always been breaks in my career, if you will. And I don't know if I call it a career, but for purposes of this conversation, let's call it a career. I think I started in 6th or 7th grade. It was definitely middle school, and it was definitely gym class. And we had a unit. It was the gymnastics unit. The gymnastics teacher at the time, I remember his name was Mr. DeVito, Haverstraw Middle School. He would use me and another boy and this one girl. He saw something in us, if you will. So he would always have us demo, and he would even teach us to spot. And we were doing, say, back handsprings. And I don't recall if it was 6th or 7th grade. It was definitely prior to 8th. But we were doing back handsprings the first week or two of the unit. And I had never done any gymnastics. We would like almost help teach the class. And this was even, as a very beginner. And he would use us to demo it. And then he would ask us, hey, can you help so-and-so with, a forward roll or a back roll? I wasn't spotting back handsprings, of course. And then we would do vaulting. You talked about, the sort of effortless ability to get some height. And vaulting in those days was way different. We used, what today is you see the men do the pommel horse, and it was the pommel horse without the pommels. We would do, various vaults over that, and we did that very quickly. And he would teach us how to jump. You hear when I teach, especially when I have new students, I teach them how to hit the board, right? The springboard, say, or the mini trampoline, to hit it correctly and get the height. And he was a perfectionist, if that would be the word, in teaching us things like that, our body positioning, spatial awareness. So I did that as a hobby, like in middle school, then we did this like after school club, and there was very few of us, but we were able to do that. And then I started taking like formal gymnastic lessons, probably 8th or 9th grade. I joined a team, and I only competed one year, and that was 11th grade. I wasn't all that great of a competitor. I didn't compete on all the events, but I never really had that formal training. It was in high schools when I started doing it, at a private gym. And I've continued since then as a hobbyist and as a teacher. I'm sure we'll talk about a mutual friend of ours, Joe, whom I started teaching for. And he also taught me a lot.
So how did you get involved with Joe's Gym?
I rode my bicycle to the mini gym in Pomona. I lived in Haverstraw, West Haverstraw, actually.
Mhm.
And I rode up 202, that big giant hill, if you know what I'm talking about. And I just walked in and I said, "Hey, do you have a job for me?" And he did. And that
Wow.
was it. And I developed a lifelong friendship with him
Mhm.
and his wife at the time. And they mentored me. They really did. And I've stuck with him on and off, certainly through high school as a teacher. And he taught me, he trusted me in the gym. And I remember the first time I did, a birthday party, right? You taught a birthday party. And he allowed me to lock up. He gave me a key. And I was in high school, 11th, maybe 12th grade, I don't recall. And it was the end. He was there, of course, for the birthday party, but it was the end of the birthday party when the kids were getting ready to leave and the parents were cleaning up. And he asked me if I could lock up. The fact that he was able to trust me with that, just really actually solidified my relationship with him, my relationship with gymnastics, of course. And I continued to do it through college in various forms. Cheerleader, I taught at a private gym in college, a team. I actually coached vault
Mhm.
and tumbling. I've continued since then, and it's how I keep myself healthy.
Did you teach primarily men? Did you teach a combination men and women?
I have taught primarily women or girls. I teach now. I teach a boys class. So, not only do you talked about coaching the class on Tuesday nights, and I think we're a team. My responsibility back to the lockup, yeah, I'm responsible for making sure the gym, the lights are off and the gym's locked.
Sure.
But I think we're all adults and we all work together to teach each other, to observe, because part of teaching gymnastics is observation. We all observe each other and give each other tips, including, I get tips from you and the other gymnasts on what I'm doing. I offer my tips. And, at the end, okay, so it's my responsibility to shut the lights and lock up. But I think we work as a team together.
I have to say, like I said, I've only really been formally coaching for about a year. I've been doing this for like 15 years being in the gym. And so what I learned in the process is that peer mentoring aspect on the adult level, where all of the women who, I walked into the gym and all these women were there and they, Lisetta and Gina and eventually Tammy, and they would do their thing. And I'm like sitting there, jumping on the trampoline and figuring out what a backdrop or a front tuck is and falling on my face. As I'm learning all of these skills, they would say, "Hey, you know what? You might want to do this. Hey, you know what? Try that, blah, blah." And so like all those, they would kind of pepper in all of these pieces of information. The one thing that I will never ever forget, and I am like eternally thankful for, was Lisetta. I don't know, maybe it was like in the first year or two. And I was learning how to do front handsprings, first on the trampoline, eventually on the vault. She said, "You have to feel like you're scraping the ceiling with your toes." And I went, "What?" Yeah, scrape the ceiling with your toes. And that idea of that extension and pointing your feet and reaching over. And now that's in my head. I'm constantly like, scrape the ceiling. Like make your
Yeah.
feet go up. And I apply that to handstands and back handsprings, anything where my feet have to go over my head. It was those things, Joe, as great of a coach as he was, I feel like I even learned more from the women that I trained with than I did from him, because it was like this collective of years of experience and
Yeah.
different pieces of coaching from everywhere. It was the most valuable thing.
Well, when you start working with other experienced gymnasts, you get the hive mind, right?
Yeah.
Where, the cliche two heads are better than one. It is the hive mind. I was watching you and I noticed that you threw your head back when you shouldn't have.
Mhm.
And maybe one of the other, maybe Tammy noticed that you leaned forward when you should have kept your upper body straight, right? And I might not have noticed both. I just only noticed one because I'm focusing. Somebody else might be focusing differently. And so therefore you have multiple coaches when we're in the gym. And that's the beauty of the class that we do together. We have multiple coaches, whether our title is coach
Right.
or whether we're just working with other mature adults who know gymnastics and who know body movement and who understand spatial awareness.
Mhm.
We can get that advice from them. Call it coaching, call it advice, but it really does help. And I learn from you all the time.
Well, yay. That feels good. There's I don't know if there's like a little touch of imposter syndrome, like, okay, I'm 50 and I'm only just starting coaching now. Like, really? Should you be doing that? And I know what I know, right? I know whatever my level is, and I know how to teach what I know. I maybe
Yeah.
can't teach all the stuff that Tammy does on bars and twisting and, the things that are more challenging for me. but I am trying to sort of settle in and get comfortable with the idea that yes, you do have an expertise here and that it is valuable and that people can and do learn from the advice that you have to give. So like it's just this sort of constant reinforcement
Yeah,
of that in my head, like saying, "Yep, no, you're okay. You're doing the right thing. No one's gotten hurt. You know, they're progressing. It's a good thing."
exactly right. And to see the individual gymnasts progress in a fashion is so good. We have the one gentleman in our class, Nick,
Mhm.
and I watched him progress from a very uncomfortable gymnast to now really understanding his where he is in space to be able to work on his own and have some, moderately advanced moves. And it feels really good when I work with anybody that begins to really show significant improvement.
Yeah, he really has come a long way. I think he's been training what for 2 years with us.
More than a year, that I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he happens to be a very perfectionist kind of person. And what I've noticed in this coaching process, especially with him, is that he gets so on his own case. He's not
Yeah.
getting it. He's not getting it. And I feel like, a lot of us are kind of like that, but trying to
Say
break
that.
through that perfectionist mindset, I've had to have like a lot of conversations with him. Like you need to give yourself some grace. You need to back off a little bit, not keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, but rather pull it back, let it marinate and come back to it. And he's the kind of guy he'd rather try 30 times to
Right,
try to
right.
get it right and like fully exhaust himself, although he's got a lot of energy. So
Yeah.
I guess he could do that.
For all of us, it's rewarding. There's so many aspects of the rewards you get walking out of the gym. One, of course, is teaching and seeing somebody get it. Another is being a gymnast and getting it. And the other thing is, sometimes, and I think we all feel this way, you look at the clock, it's like, oh, I gotta, go to the gym, like I'm tired or, I haven't eaten or, the house is a mess or I got work to do for tomorrow morning. And you get there and then you don't want to leave or you feel great when you get back. That too is just a wonderful aspect of it.
So you have brought up a word that prior to this I was not familiar with, and now I am very familiar with, the quinquagenarian.
Yeah, that's it. I had to
Yes.
look it up, a while back, but yeah.
Talk for a moment about being a quinquagenarian in gymnastics.
Yeah, so let's define quinquagenarian. It's somebody in their 50s. So I think we all know like our grandparents, right? All of us, or many of us in our class. We all know somebody, or we have parents or maybe grandparents in their 80s and maybe 90s, and we know like septuagenarian, octogenarian. And I wondered one day when I turned 50, so I'm 55, soon to be 56, and I'm proud of it. I scream it from the rooftops, right? But I looked it up when I turned 50, like, what is my decade? And I sounded out because I never heard of it, quinquagenarian. And it's like a little badge. I wanted, those little ribbons you give a 1 year old when a birthday and says, I am one. I wanted one and it said like quinquagenarian. When we look at some of our peers, and I hope some of your listeners, are not offended by this,
Mhm.
but our peers, for the most part, they can't do what we do. Now, they have things they can do that we cannot. Maybe they're runners or they mountain bike or they road bike. But this is something that we do is pretty special. And a lot of our peers could be out of shape, overweight, whatever. And it happens as you get older, right? Your metabolism slows, you're working all day. And for me, staying in shape it's really important to me. And gymnastics, among other things, I don't do a lot of hardcore, but I walk a lot. I try to, definitely take a walk every day, a couple miles. In being in the 50s and being a gymnast, it's a little bit of a badge of honor for me. And it should be for all of us. Between the quinquagenarians in our Tuesday night class,
Mhm.
a week probably doesn't go by where one of us doesn't mention our age,
It's
and
true.
in a social situation other than the gym, like if you and I went out to dinner and with our families or our spouses, I would say, hey, how old are you? Like I would never ask somebody that. I certainly wouldn't ask a woman that,
Sure.
but I really wouldn't ask anybody.
Right.
But in the gym, I always ask it. And I always announce it as well. Well, Stacey's 50, I'm 55, Time's 54, whatever. It's a badge of honor. And I think people should feel that way when they come to the gym.
I absolutely agree. Most of the people who come to us are anywhere from early 20s into like well into their 30s, right? Maybe every once in a while you get a 4-year-old, but somehow for
Yeah.
some reason not often. And I watch them, do their work, and a lot of them have had gymnastics before. and they're like coming back to it, many years
Right.
later. They did it in high
Yeah.
school or college or whatever, and then they dropped it when they became an adult, and now they're coming back to it, and they're finding their skills fairly quickly. They're like coming back to them fairly quickly, but their joints are a little different, their flexibility is a little different, and they're trying to find their way in their adult body to those skills that they once had. And I watched somebody like who hasn't been on the trampoline for a long time or on the tumble track, and all of a sudden they're getting round off back handspring back tuck, and I'm like, ah, up, and I'm like, you're in a different place. You're not in the same place where you don't have the same thing that they had,
Right.
back wide, and you are 15 years older than they are. So
Right.
give yourself a break. But yes, that badge of honor is one that I actually wear proudly now. I turned 50, and I'm about to turn 51 actually next week. And I'm like, I'm not going to be 50 anymore, but okay. Hashtag this is
So
51.
that's right, exactly. You could change your hashtag, scream it from the, proverbial rooftops that you are 51 and you're doing what you do. But when you look at other people and they're successful in the gym, there are lots of people in our class that can do more than I can do or do different things than I can do for sure.
Sure.
But I'm not competing against any of them. The only person I'm competing against is myself,
Yeah.
right? Am I able to maintain the skill set that I'm comfortable with?
Mhm.
Am I able to keep myself safe? Am I able to keep the gymnasts that I work with safe? You've seen me spot. I'm a competent spotter, but I'm also cautious spotter, and I will always explain like how I'm spotting, for example. Especially, it doesn't matter with who, men or women, but because it's a sport where we are touching each other, right? When you spot, and it's important if I'm going to spot you, maybe my whole arm is around your waist. If you say back handspring is a perfect example, and it's important for me to explain what I'm doing, to really have that focus because I've been taught by several different people. Maybe I've tweaked it so I have my own style of spotting,
Mhm.
but I do feel I'm a competent spotter. People can get through their moves, and I'm never going to spot somebody that I don't think I can spot, who are too big to spot. I'll use the spotting belt or something like that. But part of that comes also with age or with wisdom, knowing my limitations
Mhm.
and understanding what you as a gymnast, how I'm spotting you, what your limitations are, right? So, working together,
Yeah.
we'll both be
And you're actually a really great spotter. And listen, I'm quite tall. I'm not a small person, and
you're
you're
taller than I am.
several inches shorter than me. I'm very nervous to have people hand spot me because I'm afraid I'm like, instead of my arm tracking this way, it's going to go this way, and I'm like smack somebody and take them out. So I'm very reticent to have somebody actually hand spot me. But you were very good at it, and it gives me a lot of confidence, especially with those stupid back tucks that I had and then started to lose because I landed poorly. But that's another story. But there was one spot. It wasn't a hand spot. It was a belt spot. We were working, and I'm gonna put it in this video here.
Oh, that'd be great if you still have that. Yeah.
How you do? We were doing double backs or double fronts in the belt, and and Michael and I did it, and I kind of went down, like I didn't land on my feet. And you see in the back of the video, Michael goes flying because he's holding onto the rope, but my body weight is more than his body weight. So there was like this lever effect. It was so hilarious. He makes people feel very much at ease. And a lot of people, especially when you're flipping for the first time, it's very nerve wracking. Or even if you've been doing it for a while and you lost and it comes back. But he has a really amazing way of like putting people at ease and like saying, no, you have the power to do it. You can do this. And I've actually learned a lot about the coaching aspect from him in that way. So thanks for that.
It's the fundamental knowledge that a coach has to have, and that's how to spot.
Mhm.
And it's when to spot. It's understanding who's capable. What are you capable of as a gymnast? What am I capable of as the coach or the spotter? If you can understand that, your gymnasts are going to remain safe. And there's another lesson you have to teach. And this is understanding what your gymnasts are capable of. We say it all the time, is never bail out of a move.
Right.
Start the move, finish the move. Even if you don't think you're going to make it. That's why you have your spotter. Your spotter, your coach, your spotter, he or she is trained to get you through that move. But if you start to bail out of that move, flail around, midair, 3, 4 feet above, or if you're on a trampoline, you might be 5, 6 feet in the air, and all of a sudden you flail your body open. The spotter's not prepared for that. It's much more complicated to keep someone safe when they do that.
Yeah, I've only just started getting into spotting, and I was spotting somebody doing back handsprings on the trampoline, and in my head I'm like, you can do this as long as they track, you got this. And they threw it, and they started to like rotate their body almost like
Yeah.
to like go into a front, like an anodi kind of thing. And I was like, Oh, no, no, no. I'm not prepared to do it. So I'm like, get in the belt. You have to get in the belt now.
Yeah, yeah. I've been there many times.
Has there ever been anybody who like really made you nervous? When you're spotting, you're like, I don't think they're
Uh,
quite ready for this.
yeah, it's happened a couple times,
Hmm.
and I learned from it. And sometimes I'm just, somebody is pushing to do a trick,
Yeah.
right? To do a move. I'm a little hesitant. Maybe you're not ready, and they're like, "Well, I've done it before. My old coach used to spot me." I'll know the first attempt whether or not I will continue to, I'll spot the first one, and then I'll make this decision. And I've shut it down in the past.
Okay.
Like, no, we need to work more on the fundamentals, and
Yeah.
then we'll go back to this. And and that sometimes is only a week, or maybe it's only an hour, right? Getting those fundamentals.
And
It,
sometimes it's like the belt is really amazing and getting them to track the right way.
yes,
Because you have the belt, you have the strings, and there's only one way to go. You kind of
yeah.
can't go any other way, or you're going to get caught up in the ropes, and that's not really pleasant for anybody.
For those people, spotting in the belt is a great first attempt. I personally like the hands-on approach.
Hmm.
If I can, if the person's of the right size and skill,
Hmm.
I'll do the hands-on approach. If
Hmm.
not, I'll go the belt, but I'll shut it down in the belt if they're not making it either.
Right.
The belt is easy to keep someone safe,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of work for the spotter.
Yeah.
The belt is not an easy thing to do from the spotter's perspective.
Sure. 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 Yeah. You got to hold on to this rope, and if it can't
Yeah,
slip through your hands, and
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
When you got your hand above that knot
Yeah.
and it's
You're like,
yanking you up. Yeah, exactly.
that moment where you went flying is just, I will never forget that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it was fun. We laughed hard at that video afterwards.
We did. So tell me what like challenges as you've gotten older and moved on in the years, what challenges have you had to manage as you become an older gymnast?
I think there's three.
Mhm.
There's flexibility. I've lost all my flexibility. I was never, I always worked hard at being flexible, or I should say I was never flexible, so I always worked hard at flexibility. And I've lost all that. And I'm really trying hard to get actually my goal over this year.
Mhm.
My spatial awareness is still very good, except I get motion sickness, not in cars,
Mhm.
but when I start to rotate in two directions, right, on two axes, so you can do a backflip, I can go that way. I can twist, I
Mhm.
can do that. I can't flip and twist at the same time anymore. I do get disoriented, and I get motion sickness actually. I'll finish the move and I am nauseous, and and it kind of travels like up to my chest, like from my gut. So I'm very uncomfortable with that. That happened to me early. That probably happened in my mid late 20s. And you see it with kids. Kids can go on these crazy rides at the amusement park and feel great coming off them. I can't.
Yeah.
I used to when I was a kid, and it's just, my equilibrium has changed. And I've had two injuries in my life. Only one really bothers me in gymnastics.
Mhm.
And they were not gymnastics related, the injuries.
Mhm.
I broke a kneecap. That doesn't seem to bother me as a gymnast at all. I broke it in 97.
Mhm.
So, 25 years in.
Mhm.
But no, it doesn't really bother me at all. But I also separated my clavicle when I was in my
Yeah, I
20s.
know. Your shoulder was
And
in.
I have and I think I had bad medical advice, or I don't think I communicated well to the doctor
Mhm.
that I want to remain athletic because, you know what? There are probably 90% of 55-year-old males that would never feel the shoulder pain because they're not doing range of motion activity. So I have a problem with range of motion, and you see it in some of the things I do,
Yeah.
right? And I wish I would have had the clavicle repaired, and I didn't. And
Mhm.
so, those are the only challenges I've really had, I think.
Mhm.
And I think I enjoy it more as an adult than I did as a youngster.
Well, so that goes into sort of my next question. So has your approach to gymnastics changed as you've gotten older? I know you talked about the flexibility thing, so that is something
Yeah.
I'll kind of deal with too.
I know my limitations. I am not invincible like I was when I was in my 20s, right? Like we all were in our 20s. And I know my limitations. And when I was college age, high school, college, 20s, I can go to a bar and I would do a backflip on the dance floor, and I could do it 10 times over, and I probably still could do it,
Right.
but I wouldn't, you know, because I know my limitations. My approach is just about being a smarter individual. And I think that's just, it's maturity, it's wisdom,
Mhm.
and understanding, knowing my body, knowing who I am, and what I might get hurt doing, or what I'm just going to wake up the next day in pain because I want to work hard, but I don't, want to crawl out of bed the next day either.
Nobody wants to feel that.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
worst. 2 days later when you're like, oh, I can't move.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, exactly.
So if you had any pieces of advice for me, for any coach that's out there who, wants to be a better coach, what would you offer?
Good question. I think you need to understand what your student, what your gymnast's needs are,
Mhm.
and what they want to accomplish, because everybody has a goal. Helping them work toward that goal as opposed to just doing what I want them to do. So if somebody comes in, and we've had students, come in and say, I want to learn a backflip, I want to learn a back handspring, I want to learn a front flip. I like to work toward that goal. I like to work toward give them the progressions for that goal, and not necessarily focus on some of the things that they might not want to do. So as a coach, I think knowing the goals of your gymnast, I think that's the first thing. And then the second piece to that is understanding, and I've used this word a couple of times, is understanding their limitations,
Mhm.
because I sometimes feel that I'm bullied. That's a horrible word to use, but they convince me to do things which I don't think they might be ready for. And I've had this experience a number of times throughout my career. And I relent. Sometimes like I relent when my kids are, can I? And I've gotten much better at that. And I see it a little bit less with the adults, by the way, but I
Mhm.
still see it a little bit. Pushing for skills and, know their goals is one thing,
Yeah.
but then you got to progress to those goals.
Yeah, and I know that adults, we can be very impatient with ourselves and with the
Yeah.
process. Both. We want what we want it now. And sometimes it's without really understanding that that progress takes time. It's not linear. You have to give it some space to breathe. You might get it today, and then next week you might not get it. And
Yeah.
there's 10 different reasons why you may not be getting it. And it has, nothing to do with your ability necessarily. It just means that all the pieces just aren't, the mental, the physical, the environmental aren't in the right place.
It's a really good point. The mental piece is important. The success or the failure on a daily basis is so here. I know it in myself,
Mhm.
and I see it in all the folks that we work with. And by the way, as a coach, and this you don't have to teach anybody because you see it immediately, you see that the gymnast is hesitating
Mhm.
before they do whatever move that we're working on.
Mhm.
And you see the hesitation. You might see it in their eyes. If you're spotting them, and you might feel it in their body, right? You feel that hesitation, or you see that hesitation,
Mhm.
and recognizing that.
Mhm.
Like if I'm about to spot somebody, and I know, and I this happens, probably weekly,
Mhm.
and I'm doing a light spot, or maybe even a phantom spot, or on the 1 to 10 scale, my spot might be at a 3 or 4, where the heaviest might be a 10, and I know that that gymnast can do it, that they have the skills to do it, because we've been progressing toward it. And then I feel, or I see the hesitation. I'll take my spot from a 3 or 4 to a 7 or 8, because
Mhm.
I know if their mental state isn't there, that they're going to have a hard time, completing that move safely.
Then, like, if they don't, or maybe they fall funny and they get spooked, and then all
Yes,
of a
exactly.
sudden the skill kind of goes away. It just
Yeah,
dematerialized. So that kind of started happening with me with the back tucks. We went from tumble track to the tower and then to the air track, and I landed a couple, shorted it, didn't rotate enough, shorted it. The ankle kind of jammed, and then my brain went, "You're done." And
yeah,
like, so I haven't been able to mentally get back to the air track because I stand there in my set and I'm like, nothing's happening right now. Like
yeah,
my brain is just like frozen, locked up. So that's
yeah,
when you have to like back it up and get it comfortable on the tumble track, or, do 1,000 of them on the trampoline, then bring it to the tumble track, then maybe take. So it's just this sort of back and forth progress until you have done it so many times on a surface that it actually becomes second nature.
you're right. And you've used the term, I've seen you use it a couple times. Progress is not linear, and it is so, so true. And that's okay. Like I said early on in the podcast, where we said that, the only competition is yourself. I'm not worried about what other people can do. I'm just worried about making sure that I can maintain the level that I'm at, or improve to some small degree. The other thing about being in the gym, advice for a coach, I know you know this, but is to teach your gymnasts that falling is okay. Like it's okay to laugh at yourself when you fall. If you're walking down the street, or I know you're a teacher and you're in the school and you fell down, in the hallway, you'd probably be embarrassed. But when you're in the gym, there is no reason to be embarrassed. In fact, we laugh at it. And you're lying there, you're splayed on the ground, arms and legs are, flail all over the place. And again, that's like another badge of honor. I did it, I'm not hurt, and I'm gonna get back up and I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna do my best to land on my feet.
I'm going to
And
bounce.
yes. And when you teach your gymnasts, it's okay to fail, it's okay to fall, and smile about it and enjoy it, because you know what? Landing on the mat and you're nice and comfortable, you're like, this feels good at first for a moment.
It's squishy.
Yeah,
Kids do it all the time, but they're much lower to the ground and they bend, they don't break. So
yeah,
when we have the cushiness of the mat to just fall on and there's no impact and there's no jamming of joints, there's a childlike
yeah, yeah.
about us that we're like, oh, we can fall too.
You're totally right. And I think it's important. There's no judgment in the gym. It doesn't matter your body style or your body type rather, or your skill level or how you look, what you're wearing. Like there should be, and I am so firm on this, like, in my heart, that there is no judgment in the gym. We've all done it. We've all judged people that we look at. And I learned many years ago, it was actually before I was married, but my wife had said it. I had commented on someone's body at the beach. My wife looked at me and she's like, why is that any of your business? And it taught me such a lesson in judgment. And it was just innocuous in many ways, but I think it's so important to pass that on,
Yeah.
right? To pay it forward. I love that about the gym too. And, not only do I teach adults, and I told you I teach a boys class, I teach dancers as well, gymnastics to dancers. And I try and get that message across to the dancers, like no judgment. Young teens, somebody made fun of the other person. And I made a very stern comment and I kept that girl after class. And, I paid it forward. I said, listen, do not comment on somebody that doesn't have the same skill set that you do. Everybody is working hard. As a coach, and I know you know this as a teacher and an adult, but it is so important, especially in the gym where you can be very self-conscious.
It's true. And in the group of adults that come in and out of the gym, it's literally all shapes and sizes, all
Yeah.
heights, all widths, male, female, from every background. I'm really proud of it to be a part of that environment. And for so many years too, that's been the consistent where I came in as a mother of two small children and I had the baby weight and I'm tall and I have no business trying to flip. And yet they were all like, yeah, okay, so you start with this, do this.
Yeah.
And you get
Yeah.
this, okay, now do that. And it's incremental, but those increments make such an incredible whole. And then you feel amazing about yourself. Like, oh my God, look at this thing that I can do. And I know for
Yep.
me, I think that other than the fitness thing, that is what keeps me coming back. I can do that. Like this little thing today, maybe I take a little step forward on something that I couldn't do yesterday. And okay, well, now I need to do that again. I need to have that.
Yeah, exactly. And you may not be able to do it again next week, but that's your progress is not linear thing. But maybe it'll come back to you in 2 weeks. But eventually it'll be that muscle memory, right? You
Yeah.
know,
And I want it. Like I want it and I know it's for the long haul and I'm okay with that.
it's wonderful that the gymnastics community is very supportive of one another. That's another reason I'm in the sport because of the other people that are in the sport.
Yeah. Oh, you get like one simple thing that you couldn't get before and all of a sudden you're getting it and the whole gym, if they see it, they just erupt
Yeah.
with applause and cheers and you're like, okay, yeah, I do belong here. The sense of community is really astonishingly great.
That's right. And it's funny, like you say that, as a coach, my job is to be looking all over the gym. Even when, some of my gymnasts are on one apparatus, I'm on a different apparatus.
Mhm.
And you hear it from me all the time is I'll see, you or somebody else do a move on another apparatus while I'm on a different apparatus.
Mhm.
And I always, give a yell out or a clap if I see it. And that's as a coach, just like as a mom, you got eyes in the back of your head as a coach, your eyes are all over that gym
That's right.
to make sure, that everybody's, safe. And if you see something, right, it's just my job, although we're all very experienced, if I see somebody not, being safe or not spotting the right way, I will stop what I'm doing and I will come and yeah, tweak it a little bit.
Well, I know I certainly appreciate all the years of expertise that you have sort of shown in front of me. I know I've learned so much from that, and I continue to do so. Do you have any sort of last thoughts for anybody who is an adult who maybe has thought about it, maybe trying it for the first time, or is like, maybe I want to get back into it. They did it as a kid and now they're an adult.
Yeah, I would come to the gym, set your personal goal, however small that goal is, however incrementally better it is, and work toward it. And then set the second goal. Keep working at it. Don't get frustrated. Shout your age from the rooftop. Let everybody in that gym know that you are a quinquagenarian or whatever decade you are in. Let the folks in the gym know that. And then, and I actually, I learned this from you all to some extent. I don't post a lot on social media, but I sometimes, once a year, I post what I do in gymnastics on my birthday. And I like that affirmation, and we all do.
We wouldn't do it
Like,
otherwise.
right, right. I would say I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit it, but I'm not that embarrassed. Like, how many likes did I get? Who commented, when they see me do my gymnastics? We only do it once a year, my birthday. Get yourself fueled, take fuel from that. Enjoy that because as a gymnast, you are special. You're doing something that very few people are doing. Be proud of it. And even if it's only a small step, I use some of the same expressions, but somebody will do a move and I'll be like, oh, you made it to first grade, I'll say, but that's good, right? Because if you came into the gym and you were, a kindergartner from, a gymnastics perspective and you made it to first grade and now you're doing fifth grade moves, I think as new gymnasts come in, give them that perspective and let them move at their own pace. I always take gymnasts to the side when we're working and we'll work on smaller skill sets as the class is doing more advanced level skills and, try to make that individual feel comfortable.
And you do, because they keep
Yeah.
coming back.
They keep coming back. I'm thrilled when I come home and, whatever a week ago, we had I think 12 people in the gym and, sometimes our class is 10, 12 people. I love the fact that we're getting so many students.
I do too.
Yeah.
It gets a little overwhelming. Sometimes it happens on Sunday mornings too. Tammy and I, a couple people come in and then like three more people and another two people. And I'm
Yeah.
like, we're like, oh, okay. We got to plan for a
Yeah.
big class now. Okay, switch. Here we go.
In our Tuesday class, we probably have 4 different skill levels and you have to accommodate all of that.
And that's when all three of us are there. We can go, okay, you're gonna go here.
Yeah, we can split
Take
up.
this.
Exactly.
Mike, thank you so much for joining me on this little podcast that we're starting here. We'll do this again. We'll get maybe the three of us on and we'll pick a topic and go and see what comes out.
Yeah. I think what you're doing is great. You're promoting the sport, Stacy, and I think it's important that people are seeing your audience and your friends. They're seeing that age is not a factor.
Not at all.
So
Certainly does not have to be.
and it's not. It's exactly right.
Well,
All right.
I'll see you on Tuesday. I'm actually going to be able to come in on Tuesday, which is the day before my 51st birthday.
So we will have to take a moment and make a couple recordings.
Maybe I'll try to air track again, but this time with a double spot with you on one side and Tammy on the other. We'll see if we can
Good.
get that back on my last day of being 50.
We'll get you there.
All right. Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stacy. It's great talking to you.
All right.